Welcome to Silverstone, the home of the British Grand Prix. My name is Jeremy Shaw. Alongside me is a three-time former Grand Prix winner also of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, Johnny Herbert. And welcome to round 2 of the FIA GT3 European Championship, or at least the second race of the weekend at Silverstone. There have been a lot of changes to this track over the winter to get preparation for the Formula 1 Grand Prix coming up in July, and also the MotoGP. Johnny, talk us about the changes here at Silverstone.
Yeah, well, there's a few changes that have been taking place over the winter. The right-hand bottom corner, which is Club Corner, is a very slightly different curved corner now. That's the straight following that right-hander will be actually where the new pit complex will be. Then you can see it turns right, and that is the new Abbey curve and onto the new arena part of the circuit. Very fast right-hander, then a little left curve, braking very hard down to second gear, right-hander, and this is really the arena complex itself. And the left-hander is probably the slowest part of the circuit, probably about 65 kilometers an hour. Then a little short straight, left kink onto what is now the Wellington straight. Down that straight, intermediate 2, you see on the screen. Then there's a left-hander which rejoins the old Grand Prix circuit. You go through Brooklyn, and then the two right-handers of Luffield onto what is at the moment the new the old pit straight.
And we're ready for the second race of the weekend. The first race yesterday was an absolute thriller with all sorts of action going on from start to finish. And I think that this new arena layout has been a big success among the drivers. I mean, some people lament perhaps the passing of the old bridge corner, which I know you loved, as it did every driver. It was a real challenge. But so this new section of track also presents its new challenges.
Yes, it does. You can't make everybody happy. Everybody's going to complain about something. But I think generally, and from what I can see, it's much better. I think it gives a little bit more high speed, which is classic Silverstone, to be honest. So we still have the high speeds here. Then we have a little bit of a technical area in the arena part, and I think it's good because I think it just adds a little bit of extra stress to these drivers of trying to get the right type of lines onto this new Wellington straight. And I think it's just an added benefit of Silverstone racetrack.
Indeed, and the hope is to create a few more passing opportunities as well for the drivers. And I thought we certainly saw that yesterday in the opening round of the GT3 European Championship. And this series, of course, is a feeder series towards the GT1 World Championship, which will be in action later on this afternoon. The cars, we have 10 manufacturers in the GT3 Championship. The BMW there, one of the M6 Alpina cars, was smoking a little bit on that warm-up lap coming around to the formation on the grid. It
was smoking a lot.
It was
Oh, there you go, it's back again.
Yeah, oh dear. That does look extremely ugly. Is it a diesel? He probably wishes that it was a diesel. There were various other people that had some problems yesterday before the start of the race. I think another of the BMWs had a problem yesterday, and also on the grid, one of the Graf Racing Corvettes failed to fire up a starter motor problem on that car, having started among the top 8, so would have been a good chance of being in the points for the first round, and that opportunity was negated by the fact they couldn't start the car, so it was pushed away into the pit lane, and that car took no further part in the proceedings, it looks like, for that number 10 BMW that is going to have the same problem at 2. That is one of the Team S-Berg Racing cars. It's Damien Charvera and Christian Bergeon, and they have not had a lot of luck this weekend, and it looks like their luck has gotten even worse prior to the start of race 2. There's the race winner from yesterday, the Tony Seiler Racing Corvette. Wonderful car, 7-litre LS7 V8 engine. It's a fast car. The cars look super quick yesterday, but the Corvettes were having some problems with their fuel tank capacity. There was another very fast Corvette that was in contention to win the race and ran out of fuel on the very last lap. Here's a look at one of the Porsches. Martin Raginger, a former Porsche factory driver. Well, I think he's still a Porsche factory driver, despite the fact you're not supposed to have fully professional drivers in this series. It is the feeder series, as we say, for the GT1 series. So it's mainly for kind of second and third tier drivers, let's say, Johnny.
Yeah, it is, and it's funny just seeing it on screen. I think it's that Corvette has had a bit of a spin. We've got very sort of different conditions than what we had here at Silverstone yesterday. Nice, dry, sort of cloudy, sunny conditions, but today you had a bit of rain last night, and it's quite a damp track on and offline. I think that's going to make it quite interesting for these guys.
What do you mean we had a bit of rain last night? huge thunderstorm there was last night. It was raining, wasn't it, when we got into the track this morning? And the rain only stopped probably an hour or so ago, so there is a fairly stiff breeze though, Johnny, so the track is drying out, but it's certainly going to be tricky conditions for the opening laps at least of this race.
Definitely so, and I think, you know, obviously it's going to get drier as the race goes on, but it's going to be difficult to pass because obviously I think the racing line will be fairly dry, but of course offline it's going to be quite damp, so it's going to be very, very slippery. And it's the biggest thing, obviously these guys I'm sure should be on slick tyres. Now slick tyres in cold conditions is going to make it very tricky getting that temperature in there.
Here's another car that ran very well indeed yesterday, car number 101 with Christian Hohendahl and Daniel Kylwitz. They were super fast in the early stages. Running in second place was the 20-year-old Kylwitz, but they had an engine problem with that car just towards the end of the first half of the race, and they were out of the race. Let's go down to the pit lane with Hayley Coxon.
Dino, congratulations on pole. It's certainly going to be difficult for you to hold a position with all this traffic on the grid. Yeah, this is a good position to start the race, but the track condition is very, very hard. The track will be lap after lap more dry, but the first lap will be very, very difficult. Yesterday we did a fantastic race, so we try to do the same today, but I think it will be very interesting. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Hayley. And Dino Lunardi will start the race today. Let's just talk a little bit about how these races will run. We have 2 races over the weekend. Each of them counts for full championship points, which are awarded on the same scale as Formula 1. So that's 25 points for a victory, 18 points for second place, down to 1 point for 10th place. And Dino Lunardi will share that number 18 Corvette with the Swiss driver and Swiss team owner, Tony Seiler. They finished second yesterday behind the Porsche, the track speed Porsche, a locally entered, British entered car of a Spanish driver, Jose Luis Cunil, and German Tim Bergmeister. But today it is that Tony Seiler racing Corvette that will start from the pole position, and 2 closely matched drivers, and that's really what you need for success in GT3, Johnny.
Oh no, definitely so. I think in any form of racing, of course it's in this form of racing, you need a good partnership, you need a good understanding, and you probably need similar driving styles because you're going to be driving the same car, so you need to have the same feelings in the car, and it's something that they seem to be working very well together. And it was interesting yesterday, and I think it's going to be fascinating today because we have these mixed conditions.
And 1 hour race this morning for the second race of the weekend, same as the first. It's 60 minutes in total, therefore, and they have to change drivers somewhere between 25 minutes into the race and 35 minutes into the race. So that driver change has to be completed within that 10-minute window in order for both drivers to score points. Also, during the pit stop, they don't have to do anything else other than change drivers, but there is a maximum speed limit along pit lane that is set at 60 kilometers an hour, purely for the safety of the teams working on the cars along the pit lane. And at the same time, also in GT3, there is a minimum time that must be spent on pit lane. So it doesn't really matter how fast your driver change is. If you get out before that 70 seconds has elapsed from the beginning of the pit lane to the exit of the pit lane, you will be called in for a stop-and-go penalty. So the drivers and teams have to make sure that they time everything just right and don't make too good of a pit stop. And again, that's because in this series in GT3, there's a lot of amateur drivers and gentleman drivers, let's say, just out there having some fun. And so for them, it's not ultra-critical to have to get out of the car and get in again super quick. So we're going to have another pit lane again with Frederick Makovicky, one of the front runners, with Hayley.
Fred, you had to fix the car after race 1. Is it all going okay now?
Yeah, everything is okay, just the track, because a big part of the track is dry, but we have 2 or 3 parts with very much water. That's why I think that the beginning of the race is difficult.
Thank you, Fred.
Yeah, Fred Makovicky, he will start from the 4th position in the starting grid with the Aston Martin of the Hexis AMR team based in France. And Frederick, he's from Paris. He will share the car with the Portuguese-born Manuel Rodriguez. And yesterday, it was Rodriguez that started that car, also well up towards the front of the field, but was involved in an accident at the first corner and terminal damage to that car. So they did not finish yesterday's race. But certainly, that number 1 Aston Martin is going to be fast.
Yeah, it's going to be fast. I think we just saw on screen the dampness on the track, which is going to make it very tricky for these guys. You know, there's not an awful wealth of experience in some of these drivers. Some drivers obviously have a fair amount of racing experience, and it's going to be these new tricky conditions on this new track here at Silverstone that they've got to learn. They sort of learned it in the dry, now they've got to relearn it once again in these wet conditions.
Talking about the experience of the drivers, the FIA, the overall world sanctioning body for motorsports, grades all the drivers. The top drivers in the sport, Formula One drivers, Johnny Herbert included, are classed as platinum class drivers. Below that there's gold, platinum, gold, silver and bronze. Bronze being the relative newcomers to the sport. In the GT3 Championship, you can, if there is a gold driver in your car, he can only be co-driven by a bronze category driver. 2 silver category drivers can drive together, or silver and bronze. But again, that's just an equalization factor to try and make sure that there's no superstar drivers brought into what is effectively a development series. Now here the cars are leaving the grid, a 28-car grid for today, 10 different manufacturers, and they now will do their formation lap. They will form up again on the grid, and it's critical now, Johnny Herbert, to make sure that the drivers build some heat into these otherwise cold tyres.
No, exactly, Jeremy, and that's why you see the cars weaving all over the track, because although it looks a bit strange sometimes for people to do that, it does make quite a big difference to get that temperature in. You see on track it's only 10 degrees centigrade, so that makes it very, very cool. So this weaving actually does induce a hell of a lot of temperature, which these guys need to be able to drive these cars properly. So they will be doing this for the full lap, and then they're as hot as they can be, and it probably take another 2 or 3, maybe 4 laps before the tyre really gets up to its optimum temperature.
Yeah, but for non-regular race followers that are listening in today and watching in today, hopefully, all these cars run on slick racing tyres, so no tread pattern on these tyres. And you might think, well, if they've got no tread, surely they have no grip. But then if you think about it, it's that rubber contact patch onto the road that provides the grip. So the more contact patch you have, the more grip you have. But in order to get these tyres working to their optimal, they have to get up to a certain temperature, and it's a very hot temperature. And just providing that friction by moving the car around on the racetrack will build those temperatures and those pressures, air pressures in the car, in the tyres, and bring them up to where they are in their sweet spot. Let's say.
Yeah, and one other thing that is quite difficult in these conditions is, because most of these cars, or all these cars, are rear-wheel drive, it's very easy to get the temperature into the rear tyres, because you can spin the wheels and that sort of temperature goes out, which you can see what the Aston Martin is doing here. He's trying to do it left and right to equally build up that temperature front and rear, because as I said, if you do it just on the rear, that means you will have a very bad handling car.
And at the same time too, also he'll be on and off the brake pedal to warm up the brakes as well. Again, when the car goes out from the grid, the brakes are cold and they need to get up to a proper temperature before they can operate to their maximum capacity.
Yeah, exactly, because they're quite sort of, these racing brakes are very sensitive to temperature. So if you don't get them up to temperature, what they tend to do is when you touch the brake, it snatches and it locks up the wheels, and then you get flat spots on the tyres. But generally you just need to do that braking on this lap just to get that temperature there, so they don't snatch and don't do flat spots.
So that number 18 Corvette for Dino Lunardi at the wheel will start from the pole position in today's second race. He was fastest in yesterday's second qualifying session. That gave him the right to start from the pole position. The other cars line up behind him in order set by their qualifying times in yesterday's second qualifying session. The Porsche of Martin Ragginger from Austria will start alongside on the front row. On row 2 of the grid, there will be a Corvette and an Aston Martin. 2 Porsches behind that. On row 4, a Corvette and an Alpina BMW. Behind that, the first of the Audi R8 LMS cars. That will start in 9th position.
And you can see on screen there, where the cars are, there's sort of a dryish line. But then you see on the right is where the damp is. But sometimes, on this first lap especially, the cars trying to pass are going to be on those damp parts of the track, which is going to be very, very tricky. So it'll be important to get a good start.
Yes, indeed it will. And the pace car is going to pull off onto the pit lane. Around come the cars, building up some speed. They have to wait till they see the green lights flash on, and the race will be underway. It's the Corvette of Dino Lunardi on the pole position. The Porsche alongside him, which will tell, the V8 power or the 6-cylinder flat engine of the Porsche going into turn 1, Copse Corner. It's the Chevrolet on the inside line, the Porsche on the outside, and a spin for Dino Lunardi.
Yeah, I think the actual himself and the Porsche made contact, and I think that's why he did that spin.
Yeah, just the slightest contact it takes, particularly when the tyres, again, they're not really up to full temperature. There it's down the inside.
And you can see the Porsche behind him, the yellow and black, the green and black Porsche. He's locking its wheels up, so he hasn't got the temperature that he needs.
And that's the much more experienced driver, Martin Ragginger, in that green and black and white Porsche. And he's I think maybe he's got some damage as a result of that contact in the first corner, because he is falling back. In fact, you can see
he's got a puncture.
There he goes. Yeah. And down the inside, that white Corvette that took the lead into the Beckett's complex is the car now driven by Christian Oehnadel from Germany. And yesterday, that car driven by Daniel Karlowitz was running right at the front of the pack in the early stages until they had a problem. But now it is that same car, the Corvette, in the lead of the race, and everybody jostling around in the mid-pack.
Marine car here with the Aston Martin, and again he's got, I don't know what that's in front of him now. That's GT3. Anyway, he's got to get close. This is coming out of the new club section, and now he's going to be trying. It's very difficult to overtake here. There's a right-hander very, very fast, which goes on to the new Abbey part of the track. Then there's quite wait. You see the spray from the car, bit of twitching going on. There's a left-hand curve going on here. This is the arena, part of the arena, all jostling for position here. This is the slowest part of the track here, the left-hander. The Porsche is still trying to go around the outside, and they're now going on to what is now the Wellington Straight. It's important, this curve there, that left, to get correct, because if you don't get that pace, you don't get the speed down the straight.
That Porsche, the blue-white Porsche, I think that's Marco Holzer, who's another factory Porsche driver, a youngster at the wheel of that third-place car right now. And that is a great battle developing. In second place now is Carnabatov, another of the Porsche, driven by Kevin Estre, a Frenchman at the wheel of that car. And this is great dicing going on. That is, we can see Fred McEwecky's car, the number 1 Aston Martin, tucked in behind that Ford GT. Great variety of cars again.
It is, and it's great because obviously some of these cars, some are better in the dry and some are better in the wet, so it's going to change as this race progresses, because of these conditions are going to change quite dramatically. And
it was, I think it's Christopher Nygaard who is driving the Ford GT. He made a great start. He started back in 14th, in 10th position, but up now inside the top half dozen or so, and really pushing hard in the early stages.
He is, and he's putting a lot of pressure on that Porsche, and it's going to be really now important for him coming out of the Beckett's onto the hangar straight, one of the fastest parts of the track, that he needs to get that slipstream there. The Aston Martin equally behind the GT40, trying to get a draft behind, and now the GT40, no, he's going to try the outside. I think that will be quite an impressive move. No, he's not going to make it on this occasion.
Yeah, and both Christopher Nygaard in that Ford GT and Fred McEwecky, with whom we were on board in the Aston Martin a few minutes ago, are doing double duty this weekend. They're driving not only in the GT3 European Championship race, but also in the GT1 World Championship race in a couple of hours' time. So they're getting a lot of track time, these guys, this weekend, and clearly putting it to good use.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's an important thing that, you never know what's going to happen with the weather. We believe it's going to stay dry from this point on. If a shower does come, of course, they're going to get an advantage because they've actually been on a damp track.
The interesting things about the GT3 European Championship is 2 drivers per car, and in each day, 1 driver will start one of the races, and on the second day, the second driver will start the race. So again, it equalizes everything out. So over a race weekend, each driver will start a race and finish a race. So again, it just equals everything out, and I think the championship, I'm very impressed. I think this is a good series that has some sensible rules that improve the competition. There's a good look on the inside coming down into Brooklands Corner. One of the Corvettes, one of the Graf Racing Corvettes, both of them had problems yesterday, but trying to make a move down the inside line didn't quite work.
No, it didn't. It's got a good interest in how these cars do change with the temperature. It's good to be in car with the Aston Martin. And you see that sort of stick shift. It's sort of like a motorbike. It's sequential, and it sort of has a little cut as well, so the driver can actually leave his foot flat on the throttle, and the little gear knob itself has a little sort of an electronic aid that when it just moves, it cuts the engine, which allows it to go into a upper gear, not in down gear. The shift you have to use your clutch and your throttle on the downshift itself.
Indeed, so there is a good look at the Ford GT of Christopher Nygaard, and he's on board with Fred McEwecky. You can see him working the pedals, and it's super onboard shots. So look how close he is, tucked in behind the Ford GT. He's going to move to the inside, down the hangar straight, trying to make a move into Stowe Corner, but that Ford Oh, twitching around under braking, not able to make the pass was Fred Makowiecki, but oh, somebody's across the grass. That is the second place car of Kevin Estre on the exit of Stowe Corner. He runs across the grass, but amazingly doesn't lose a position.
Aston Martin put in massive amount of pressure on that GT40. At the moment, he's trying to put as much emphasis on trying to say, hey, I'm here, I'm going to pass you. And it's trying to make that driver in front make a little mistake and get in front.
Let's have a look at the standings as they are right now, with 3 laps in the books. The Corvette out in front, 2 Porsches in second and third, then the 4 GT, the Aston Martin, the first of the BMW Alpina cars. This is Martin Matska at the wheel of that car, the Czech Republic driver. On the right on the tail, as you can see, are Fred Makowiecki in the Aston Martin. Farther down the order, the Corvette in 7th place, the Porsche in 8th. The Corvette in 7th place, that's Mike Parisi, who was winning, looking like he was set to win the race yesterday until he ran out of fuel on the final lap. The Ferrari in 10th place, that had a great run yesterday with Diego Alessi at the wheel right now. They finished 4th after starting way back in 12th. And then the phalanx of Audi R8s, Michael Ammermüller in 14th place. Johannes Stuck, the son of a legendary Austrian driver Hans Stuck from the 70s and 80s, rode in Formula One for many teams, a massive amount of experience, particularly also in sports car racing. So some good names here, several second generation drivers in this field of cars. And as you can see, as the standings roll through, a great variety of machinery as well. And there was Martin Raginger back at the back of the pack. He came into the pits with that car, and I don't believe Johnny has made it back out again.
No, I don't think so. But it's a great little race. That BMW, I'm quite surprised how the pace that's got. He's starting to hustle that Aston Martin, which is equally hustling that GT40. It's a great little battle as we have a replay of that start. And you can see that they're all close together, the Corvette. And then we see a little bit further back that Porsche. There was a little bit of, there was a bit of contact there, but a bit further back there seemed to be a little bit of action going on, a little bit of shenanigans, let's say. But I think it's unfortunate that touch, and I think we see it here. You should see that touch. So you've got the Corvette on the inside, the Porsche. No, it just went out of shot.
Yeah, so all sorts of fashion. But that touch between the Corvette and the Porsche on the front row of the grid as they turn into Cops Corner, minimal contact there seemed to be, but the Porsche clearly picked up a puncture and came to the back of the pits. A little bit of smoke we hear coming from the back of that #1 Aston Martin, Fred Makowiecki at the wheel, and you can see right close behind him there is that BMW of Matska, very close behind it. Gorgeous BMW Alpina B6, a gorgeous looking car. But right behind him also Mike Parisi in the first of the Graf Racing Corvettes.
And we're getting on our timing screen. Of course, every single lap these guys are just going faster and faster and faster as the track dries. But of course the biggest problem is obviously trying to pass, because as I said, offline, that is where it's going to be quite damp.
Yeah, the fastest laps yesterday were down around the 2 minutes and 6 second range, or 2 minute 5 second range, I should say. Right now they're running 2 minute 07 for the race leaders, so within a couple of laps of the ultimate pace on a track that is still drying out.
Yeah, no, definitely so. And I think again what it is, of course, the temperature of the tyre is coming up. Generally what normally happens, of course, when you have rain, it normally cleans the track again and it becomes green. And green generally means there's not much grip on the track, not much rubber. So as these cars will be doing more and more laps, the rubber will be going down, and equally so they will be getting more grip, so they will go more fast.
There's a good shot of the cars coming into Cops Corner. You see the BMW Z4 there, and all that huge variety through the field on board. Well, not on board, but watching the race leader Christian Hohenadel in the Corvette, but tucked in behind him is Kevin Estre in that Porsche number 12. What's Conor doing here? And then behind it in third place, another Porsche with Marco Holzer. And the car that's out in front of the Corvette, that is Martin Raginger, who came into the pits. He did make that pit stop with that punctured tyre, and he actually did rejoin the race, but as you can see, just at the tail end of the lead lap. So that green and black car is on the lead lap, but effectively in last place, and that white Corvette is leading the race, and right hot on his heels is Kevin Estre in the Porsche. A great battle developing with two completely different cars. Fastest lap of the race just set by Kevin Estre, who looks to the outside line. I don't think that's going to work, Johnny.
No, it's not there. No. But I think it's just putting pressure on the guy. He just wants to keep on niggling and naggling at him, and if he does that, he might make a mistake and he'll be able able to get through. It's interesting to see the Porsche that's obviously had the first corner incident. The pace is obviously very quick, and at this present time he's pulling away from the leaders, so hopefully he won't come into play for them. So I think it's going to be now interesting to see how the Corvette, the leading Corvette, handles the pressure from the two Porsches behind him.
Yeah, Martin Ragginger in that green and black Porsche shouldn't be a factor, because he did qualify on the front row of the grid, so it is a very fast car, and he'll be pretty well wound up after having to make that extra pit stop, which of course will take him out of contention for the victory. But he nevertheless wants to prove a point here. He wants to get more comfortable also with this car. Kevin Estre has been driving primarily in the Carrera Cup Series in France, and this is certainly a step up in terms of competition for him. Yeah,
definitely so, and I think it's just another stepping stone in a driver's career. You know, this is the good thing about this GT3 European Championship. It is a nice stepping stone for the GT1 World Championship type cars, and we know we have a couple of drivers that are doing that, and there are quite some nice, quick, young drivers in this GT3 Championship.
There is a battle for the lead between the Corvette and the Porsche. Porsche also in third place. Then the Ford in fourth. Behind the Ford is that Aston Martin with Fred McAvecchi for the Hexis AMRT, and he has just set the fastest lap of the race so far at a 2:06.6, about a half a second quicker than the leader. So they're all very closely matched. All this top 7 or 8 cars, and also now up into 8th place I see is Tim Bergmeister in car number 20, the Porsche. He won yesterday's race with Cito Cunil, but for qualifying today, it did not. For today's race, did not go well for Tim Bergmeister. He started back in 12th and has now worked his way up into 8th place, but he's already a good 12 seconds behind the leader, so he's got a lot of ground to make up. Again, here are the standings. Nygaard in 4th place in the Ford GT. Porsche, the Corvette in 7th, followed by the Porsche, and then the Ferrari moving up 1 position into 9th place, followed by the BMW Z4, then the 2 Audi R8s with Bruce Laugeroux, former single-seater driver, and right behind him Johannes Seidlitz, who is a very talented young German driver, raced last year in the German DTM Championship for the Opel team, this year moving across to the GT3 European Championship.
And it's interesting to see the BMW that was hot on the heels of the Aston Martin. It was obviously very good when the track was damp, and now it's drying out. He's dropping back quite a long way, and this is where some of the cars are better in different conditions, but the BMW at the moment is definitely dropping back from that sort of Aston Martin GT40 battle. There he is there, just dropping back a bit. Under pressure now from the Corvette.
I don't know why, but the number 25 Lamborghini Gallardo, which you've not yet seen, it's a yellow and black car, was super competitive yesterday, dominated the early stages of the race with Philip Geipel at the wheel. He handed over to his more experienced co-driver, but Ellen Law, but she hasn't driven on asphalt race tracks for 7 or 8 years up until this weekend, so she was a little bit rusty. She had a spin, but still finished in 3rd place. But that number 25 Lamborghini is shown a lap down on the rest of the field, so I don't know what happened. I can't quite see the pit lane, so I don't know what happened, but that is a fast car that would appear to be out of contention. And there, once again, that was Kevin Estre in the Porsche running way wide on the exit of
And we've got an R8 that's back marker. Yeah, there's, see, we've got the Porsches. Actually, the Corvette got stuck behind that back marker, the R8, and the Porsche went straight round the outside. So he's still causing a bit of mayhem there, but they're all past now. But the Porsche has made up a position.
He is the new leader then, the Porsche of Kevin Estre into the lead, and now Christian Owenadel in the Corvette is languishing in 2nd place. He wants to get that position back again. It's very close. The top 4 or 5 cars pretty much nose to tail. There they are. The 3rd place car is Marco Holzer, the NEC blue and white Porsche in 3rd place, and Christopher Nygaard doing a super job there to hold on in 4th. He qualified outside the top 10, but made a great start and is really challenging the leaders now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that Porsche sort of extends his lead, because I think he seemed to be slightly quicker, although the Corvette's still tucking in behind him, but I think he is the quicker car.
We have a new fastest lap of the race, however, and it was set not by the Aston Martin, but by that Ford GT about which we were just talking. Christopher Nygaard just in front of us as we're looking out of the front window of the Hexis Aston Martin. There is the Ford GT. Christopher Nygaard from Denmark just set the fastest lap of the race. The cars going quicker and quicker and quicker at 2:06.3 last time around.
Yeah, the Aston Martin and the Ford GT are basically the fastest of those sort of front-running cars, so it'll be interesting to see if they can keep that pace up. If they keep that pace up, then they have a good chance of moving up positions.
Let's have a look at the positions as they are again right now. The new leader is Kevin Estre in the Porsche, and behind him is a battle of cars with all sorts of different variety. There's another of the Lamborghinis. That is the teammate, the Lamborghini of Giorgio Sanna, who is put it into the gravel trap. And I think does he race against you, Johnny, in the Superstar Series in Italy? Let's have a look, see what happens.
I think he just had a spin there, I think, yeah. And straight off there. So yes, we raced together in the Superstars series there, straight through that mud. Yeah.
Just got on the gas a little bit hard to there, didn't he? Look, here's another, the Corvette. It's challenging again, that Porsche. A great battle here between two completely different cars, the Porsche and the Corvette, going into the...
This is Club, exit Club.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The top 5 cars, there they are, in line astern. It's a Porsche, a Corvette, a Porsche, a Ford GT and an Aston Martin battling for the lead in this race. We're only less than just over 15 minutes into the race, so we're still about 10 minutes away from the pit stop window opening. As you can see there, the order: Kevin Estre in the car number 12, Christian Oenadel in car number 1, and the relative positions and lap times they are doing over the last couple of laps, and as you could see, very little to choose between them.
Yeah, and what you can see as well, it's unfortunately gone off shot, but the GT40 has just got on the back of the... is that winking at me?
Yeah,
GT40 has just got on the back of that Porsche, and I think now he's going to start put him under pressure, and I think the race is looking very interesting for these last sort of 5 or so minutes before these guys have to pit.
Indeed so, and that Lamborghini is part of a pretty dangerous position down there, isn't it, in between Brooklands and Luffield.
Yeah, I don't know if they have anything to drag it off. I hope they do. They need to get rid of that as soon as they can.
Here is this battle. There is Marco Holzer in 3rd place, and he wants more than that. But look now, the Corvette is challenging around. Going to look to the inside, going into Beckett's. That's an awfully difficult place to make a pass.
It is, and the interesting thing with this battle now with these front two is, of course, it's going to help the next 3 cars behind, because obviously they're going to be battling, they're going to be slowing each other up, and it's going to close the help. Probably that GT40 and the Aston Martin at the back there to close up on them and get in a better racing position.
You know, that Porsche pulled away a little bit through the Beckett's complex. That was kind of interesting, wasn't it? He pulled out 2 or 3 car lengths. That mid-engine car just really nicely balanced in these still slightly tricky conditions.
Yeah, and you see the Corvette has just passed that BMW that is dropping down. Now we've got the GT40 put in that Porsche under pressure, and this is an interesting one. This the right-hander now. Club is interesting. So if you can get close enough here, you can follow him up towards the Abbey curve, keep close to him, and then we go on to the new part of the circuit, and there's the tight right-hander at Arena, which gives him a possible opportunity to overtake, but I don't think he's going to be close enough on this lap.
You guys are coming up now into the new section. It'll be sharp right-handed here, down to 2nd gear, a very short stab on the throttle down to 1st gear here, and now the key is to get the power on smoothly to get you onto the very fast Wellington straight.
It is, because you see, as we see, there will be a left-hander there, and it's not flat out for these guys, so you'll have to do a little bit of a lift off, a little bit of a short shift, and if they get it right, they can actually get that slipstream and that run up to this left-hander here going into Brooklyn. But again, they're not quite close enough, but he's really handy in that GT40.
The Ford GT breaks good and late into there, doesn't he, and just able to fend off the Aston Martin. Interesting to see how these different cars just act a little bit differently, particularly from the onboard there from Frederick Makowecki. You can kind of see that the straight line speed, the Ford GT is pretty good, and the Aston just closes a little bit on the apexes of the corners, but that's not really where you want to be fast. You want to be fast on the entrance to the corners at the end of the straights.
Yeah, and what I think hopefully we'll see here as well, the GT40 is actually quite good through this section, and he normally just pulls out a little bit and gets closer to the Porsche in front. So yes, I think he's pulled out another little gap on that Aston Martin behind him. So they sort of, some cars are good in certain parts of the circuit, and then the others are better in the other part of the circuit, and it's trying to get in the right place to give yourself a chance to overtake in the corner coming up.
Got a glimpse of the Ford GT there. Christopher Nygaard, he's driving a Ford GT right now. He'll be driving an Aston Martin later on this afternoon in the GT1 race. And more battling here, a little bit farther back down the order. A couple of the Audis, Audi R8 LMSs, beautiful cars coming in to the Beckett's complex, and Aston Martin behind them, another Corvette as well. That number 18, Dino Lunardi, who started on the pole, had that spin, and now making his way back up the order, up into 16th place.
So the Corvette, again, is on the back of that Porsche. We're sort of having still the pressure. They're very, very similarly placed, those front two, and I think it's something that the more the pressure that they put on each other and the more they slow up each other, as I said before, it will only benefit the guys behind. But I think they seem to be doing a smart race of just trying to allow each other to actually do the pace that they need just to extend that lead over the third place Porsche.
It's going through your mind, if you're Christian Oehnadel now in second place, you've led the early stages, you've kind of got balked and somebody else has had a run on you. What are you thinking about? You're trying to, when do you make your move? Do you make a move?
Well, you've just got to be consistent in your lap time. Nice little battle going on here with the R8s and the Aston Martin. So yeah, good little battle there. But yes, you just want to try and keep on close, because when this pit stop comes in, it's very good to be able to be at least hand over to your fellow driver close to the competition, and I think all he needs to do is just stay on his bumper for when those pit stops come along.
Yeah, the pit stops will be coming as soon as...
There's a bit of weaving going on here. There's a BMW and an R8 having a nice battle, and this is what's good about this new section. He's trying to go around the outside. This would be brave if he does that one. Is he going to do that? I think he is. Bit of rubbing. Oh, it ain't quite make it. But this is where I'm glad to see there is a digger finally on the track trying to get the beached Lamborghini off the track. But it's good with this new section, as I said, going down towards Brooklyn, gives this opportunity for these guys to overtake, as the Aston Martin dives down the inside of the R8 and a clean move.
And that is the number 2 car, which is one of the Hexis AMR cars. That is the teammate to Frederick Makowiecki, Thomas Ackery at the wheel. In fact, this afternoon, Thomas Ackery and Frederick Makowiecki, who both started this race in the pair of Hexis Aston Martins, will be sharing a car in this afternoon's GT1 race. So good experience for the both of them. Ackery did not qualify particularly well for this race, but is moving up the order, and now up to 13th place, 12th place with that pass.
I think we can see that Corvette is hustling that Porsche quite a lot now. I think his pace seems to have improved over the last 3 or 4 laps, and I think he's getting himself in a possible position to actually overtake that at some point. I think there's a bit twitchy there, that Porsche, leading on to the left kink as we go on to Wellington Straight.
We've still got the top 5 cars pretty much nose to tail, just a few car lengths between a couple of them perhaps, but certainly very, very closely matched. Mike Parisi in the Corvette is in 6th place. You can see the running order scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Mike Parisi is in 6th place, having got past the BMW. Oh, there is Dino Lunardi. He's off again. He's having a hard time getting back going again as well. So he's had a spin now. He's had a spin on the opening lap. That is not exactly what the car that finished in 2nd place yesterday did not want. They wanted another good point-scoring finish to cement their championship position, and it's not going to come for Dino Lunardi and Tony Seiler this afternoon.
No, it's not. It's a shame, because I think their race pace was very good yesterday, and they had a good opportunity today, but I think they've blown that.
Well, I was going to say that Mike Parisi in kind of a 16, the Corvette, having got past the BMW Alpina, has been setting very fast laps. He is closing in on these top 5, had set the fastest lap of the race up until last time around, when Martin Rankin, you remember him from the very first corner, had an incident in the Porsche that started on the front rather good, made the pit stop to change a tyre, was almost a lap down to the leaders, and we haven't seen that car lately. The reason we haven't seen it is he's pulled away from the leaders and just set the fastest lap of the race at 2 minutes 5.9. These leaders, they're lapping about 3 or 4 tenths of a second slower, so very, very closely matched, and there's a whole bunch of cars. There's probably 10 or 12 cars that are lapping within 1 second or so of the ultimate pace.
It is, and of course that makes it quite hard for the drivers to be able to pass each other. But I think that Corvette there, definitely, yes, he got great drive out of that corner. Now he's kept that Porsche's gone in the damp. That's going to make his tyres go a bit cool. That's going to make it twitchy, and there you go. There's the twitchiness. Just amazing. Just that little bit of damp on the tyre makes it. I think he just clipped in there. Yeah, just clipped in there. But that damp just makes that difference where the tyres go suddenly cold and then you lose all your grip, and that's exactly what we saw there.
Excellent driving by Christian Owenardle. He pressured him into that mistake. There's one of the United Autosports Audi R8s also having a spin. Let's have a look at this again.
Now you see now he's on the damp. Now he goes on the damp again, so for the second time, quite a lot of spray, and then his inside wheels basically have gone much cooler. He goes on the curb, but that was a big mistake. You shouldn't go on the curbs, especially when they're damp like that. And that was just because he was put under pressure. And then you just see him flick around. He goes back onto the track, and he just clips the back of that. I think that was the GT40. So hopefully he hasn't done any damage to the GT40, who was the innocent party.
Yeah, it was the GT40 who just maybe clipped him. Also, we saw Frederick Makowiecki taking avoiding action to the right-hand side, and he did a wonderful job to keep that car off the fence. So we have a new race leader for, again, as it was in the early stages, Christian Owenardle in that Corvette, back into the Callaway Corvette. A wonderful move. He gets himself into that premier position, and the pit window is now open. 34 minutes remaining in this race. Let's have a look and see the damage. If there is any more damage, it would be on this side of the car. As we look at it right there, it doesn't seem to be any damage there.
Just more on the
whatever that
Porsche.
was that caused the front of the damage on that Porsche, not quite sure, but the Ford GT seems to have got away with it and is in third place.
Yeah, that was it. This is all about where you can just pressurise a driver sometimes in getting in a position. Oh, that was quite an interesting mess on the front there.
Why did it cause that much damage to the car? Because I don't think the Corvette hit him as it went through, did it?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
It's the end of the race for Kevin Estre. He had a good run going there. Let's have a look on board from Fred Makowiecki.
So there's a lot of smoke going on. There's that Porsche. That's the Aston Martin. So maybe it was the Aston Martin he clipped. It's gone very wide there. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was a GT40, I think.
Big run through the gravel for Fred Makowiecki.
This may be a better shot there. This gives a better shot for us.
Around he goes.
Around he flicks and he goes back onto the track. There's the GT40. Oh, just clipped by the tyre. Very lucky guy. Very lucky.
Like
just clipped
the
it.
tyre of the Ford GT, and awfully lucky in that case not to cause a puncture on the Ford GT.
Extremely so.
And I think, if it was going to cause any damage, it would have had its effect by now, perhaps.
Yes.
So well, maybe he's got away with it.
Yeah, I think so. Of the shot we saw, we didn't seem to see any damage on the side. So he's a very fortunate guy, and again, innocent party, and thankfully he's got away with it. So we will see. It will be actually on this side here, but no, you don't see anything there. So I think it was the wheel that he caught. Very lucky.
Just flush and just right, because it's very easy to pull out the tyre stem on that and just let all the air out right away, but maybe he's got away with it. He's still in third place. It's still Kevin Owenardle in the Corvette that leads, Porsche in second place, the Ford GT in third, and the second of the Corvettes, Mike Parisi, now up into fourth place, and Makowiecki, after that huge excursion through the gravel, somehow recovers in fifth place, still ahead of that BMW Alpina of Martin Matzke in sixth.
Yeah, we got the same sort of battle into the same sort of corner, but the R8 was a lot smarter. Didn't go sort of too close to the inside where it's damp, and that allowed him to actually go through Abbey itself without any issues. But he's coping very well with that Porsche that's putting him under a lot of pressure, and he's just doing his race at the end of that. And I think it's always the smartest thing to do, is just do your race, your pace, maybe make it a little bit difficult for him behind, but just concentrate on your job ahead.
Marcus Paltala, the Finnish driver in that Porsche car number 60, pursuing young Matthew Bell in the Audi R8. That's the United Autosports Audi R8 LMS, a mid-engine car there. And young Matt Bell, it's his first ever professional race. He's done very little racing in the past. Let's go down to the pit lane. Kevin Estre is with Haley Coxon.
Kevin, you're involved in a great battle there with the Corvette, but sadly you've had to bring the car into the pits.
Yeah, great battle. Yeah, he was just behind me, and during 2 laps the car was difficult. I had a lot of oversteer, and before the high-speed corner, he pushed me just a little bit, and the car oversteer and a little on the entry of the corner. So I have oversteer, and I touched the grass with the rear left. So I lose the car, and after I did a spin. So it was great start, because I start on the 6th position. I'm sorry for my co-driver, and it was good battle. I think for the season it will be great, but I'm disappointed for this race.
Thank you.
So that is Kevin Estre there, the young French